good evening and welcome to GF Uncensored on this Monday evening. And it is a bit later than what we are usually on the 7 o'clock or an 8 o'clock slot. I've got a 9 o'clock slot this evening, so I could bring on this lovely lady as I call Boss Lady. And I'm going to introduce you to Mandy Fellows. And I'd like Mandy to come in and then we can have a little chat together.
Good evening, Mr. Fields. How are you?
I'm all right, young lady. How are you?
Yeah, good.
And excellent. And do you want me to give you an introduction for yourself, or would you like yourself to introduce yourself? Which way would you like it? I'll give you the floor.
I'll let you introduce me because you know what I'm like for talking.
Yeah, I can't usually get a word in edgeways, but I think this show will run over even before we start. Mandy is a founder of Anubis Paranormal Team, which has been going now for 5 years. And she was with another team and she just felt that she needed to go in another direction to move forward within the paranormal and the metaphysical path. And first saw spirit when you were 6 years old. And you didn't really think that you had the gift until you was a teenager, and then things started developing, did it? So
yeah, when I was a teenager, yeah.
So obviously we'll go through questions as we're doing this as well. And you've done like parapsychology and you've done demonology and, you know, a European ambassador, and you've been a big, massive part of the world's the largest paranormal investigation in the world. We started all that, didn't we? I think in the second year, so we can run into that as well. You do public investigations, fabulous team around you as well, and you love the old school ways as well, which is narrowing it down a little bit. You're a crystal healer. And again, you know, you've done a diploma as well, which is always amazing. And you like your crystals, as we said. So spiritual anchor and vessel on many occasions, which we'll touch a little bit more on that as we're going on through the program as well. And thanks for joining me and welcome to GF Uncensored. So where would you like to start?
Thank you for having me.
Tell us more, man. Tell us more from the beginning. Good evening, folks.
It started when I was 6 years old. I lived facing a very old church and graveyard. And when I used to go to bed of a night time, I'd see people going into the church dressed in their fancies and fineries. But as a child, it didn't really mean much to me. I didn't really understand. Then I closed off to spirit until I was a teenager. And then I started to realise what I'd been seeing as a child wasn't normal people obviously going into the church and graveyard. It had been spirits at different times, at different periods of their lives, going in and out the gates of the churchyard. So that's what took me on my path.
And then again, from even 6 years old, that experience it's like, I would try and explain to people, it's like watching a television program without the television on, isn't it? It's like,
yeah,
I'm really seeing that. I'm too scared to add on to that. I'm too scared to ask questions about that. And you don't know which way round your things are going for you at that moment in time. It's like, it's belief, but it's disbelief. Am I seeing this? Am I seeing this? And then it's like a minefield then, isn't it? With over-analysing stuff as a youngster. And I think sometimes that's where a lot of people shut down as a youngster, and then you jump into your teenage years.
Yeah, I think your spirit guides close you down as well, don't they? So it's not too much of an overload for you with going through, obviously, your childhood years, your school years. Then you've got to go through the likes of puberty and that. You've got to find yourself first, haven't you? So I think your spirit guides close you down a lot as well.
So when do you find when do you find your guide came in and you started to work around that, would you say?
Probably around the age of just before I was a teenager, actually, probably about 12. Just after my nan passed over, my granddad came forward a lot more.
Yeah.
So he sort of stepped in.
And as again, we have done a lot of house clearances together, and we've done a lot of investigations together, and we've grew together as well, even part of the team and that. I'm just trying to think of the experiences of where your granddad comes in and your team comes in. Do you want to tell us a little bit more how your spiritual team work with you in and around what you do as well?
My main two spiritual guides are my granddad, Frank, and a lovely witch that we acquired as my spirit guide from Penwyn Old Hall.
Oh, did we? Did we?
We did. She was seen in a very bad light. We did acquire her, didn't we?
We did acquire the band.
Rid of her, but do you know what? She can stay. I love her to bits.
And we'll touch on that again as well in a couple of minutes. So could you recap again what? Sorry for talking over you. I do apologise.
All right. I tend to know when something's wrong if I see a hangman's noose, because my granddad was an executioner, and if I see the image of a noose, I know something's going to go sideways, and I know he's around.
Also, as well, with seeing these, we get these signs, don't we? And we get these signals as mediums and sensitive workers with spirit and light, and you just know from the gut intuition when something's not going right or something's a bit touchy in somebody else's atmosphere or something else is going on in and around other people. You just get that the sixth sense really kicks in, doesn't it? You know what I mean? And we always trust our guide, we always trust our team. And to be honest with you, I can safely say I don't think they've ever let us down, have they? Still there, man?
Yeah, still here.
Okay. Just saying, your spiritual team doesn't seem to ever let us down, does it? You know, we're always on the ball and spot on with what's going on as well.
No, never. Especially with Agnes. Agnes is not very keen on men, and if
hold on, who did she
attack? One occasion,
who did she attack first, man?
She doesn't like you. She doesn't like you at all. But if she had to protect you, she would have you back. That's the kind of person she is. She's done that on many occasions because she just has this aversity to men, but she's protected Eddie, she's protected Phil, she's protected you. If she has to, she will.
Also, as well, can you enlighten people now how I first came across Agnes and we came across Agnes on the investigation, and all of a sudden I think a lot of things have grown from that moment in time to the total understanding of stepping back and learning what's actually gone on in and around time from hundreds of years ago when she would have realmed on this earth as well. So there was a thing with me where I could see a pit at that Penryn Old Hall, and it was like 1818 or in 1918, I thought. Now, there was a lot of bodies in this pit. And I said a few weeks back that I was virtually on the verge of going to the police to say I could see a lot of bodies in the bottom of this pit spiritually. And I could virtually see where it was. And then the next morning after the investigation, and we came across Agnes, and we can go into the story, you can relate into the story of that. My guide actually went, Gary, it's 1818 or 1618. So it was like hundreds of years ago of that pit and these bodies all together in this like one massive grave. And sometimes you've got to take a step back, haven't we, as mediums, and work out actually what did go on last night.
16.
So how would you explain?
Don't get given the full story.
Yeah, go on, give us the full story now.
Well, we came across her a couple of times in Penryn because we've done there a few times, haven't we? And she always came across as quite negative and quite abrupt. So she was put forward as being quite an abrupt and negative energy that they wanted to clear from the location. But she just, I think I took time to listen to her, because you don't always have time to make time for negativity. And something told me to make time and actually listen to her. So basically, she came home with me, and I took the time to listen to her story and why she came across and was perceived so angry and so negative. It wasn't that she was a witch, she was a herbal healer, but she'd never inflicted anything on anyone that didn't have to be done. She did put 6 gentlemen to their grave, but only because of what they did to her younger sister. She sort of paid karma back.
If I remember rightly on that investigation, didn't like 5 or 6 bombard down from up above, and we had to hold them back spiritually on like a shield as well, because they tried to bombard because they felt that there was a bit of a wrongdoing as well there, wasn't there, where something was put. So they were virtually lost their lives on the back of the words, wasn't it, with Agnes and that. There was a twist and a turn, wasn't there, on it? And it was very in depth at the time as well. It was. We had to be on the ball that night.
It was very, very, very sad story, and it was with the help of Kelly. I could picture these dolls that need to be made, these little straw dolls. And if you remember, Kelly made the dolls for us. And we sort of spiritually showed Agnes and her little sister Jess the dolls, and then everything sort of lightened up for the rest of the night then, and we got the story out, got Agnes's story across. She spoke through me, and we were able to say that, you know, she's not the negative person that she's been portrayed at for all these years.
And we certainly had some amazing evidence on that night. We had a very solid table, actually walking up 2 flights of stairs that evening, didn't we?
I think that was a couple of invests before, when she was very, very angry because nobody was listening to her, and we got that table to go up the stairs, yeah.
And it was like easy 6 foot, wasn't it? 6 foot table, and it was rocking and everything, and actually with I think there was about 5 or 6 people around the table, but it was following us on command that day, wasn't
it? My signal or your signal?
Most probably yours. I'm saying that the table was following us on command, wasn't it? From the centre of the room up to the stairs, and just kept following us.
Yeah, it must have been about 6 foot, 3 foot, and it was solid oak.
And we did get that on footage as well, didn't we, somewhere? If you're still there, man, I've got a question coming in. You still there, yeah? Jane saying, can you clear dark entities attached to a person?
It was, yeah. It was, I think it was about 5 foot by 3 foot, solid oak table.
There's a question on screen there now, man, coming in. Can you clear an entity attached to a person, which we've dealt with before, haven't we, many a time?
Yeah, we have, yeah, many times.
Just waiting on the signal to buffer in there as well. Over the years, we've done a lot with house clearances. Do you remember the one we did on the back end of Liverpool, where we could see the little child in the corner, and it was virtually, she was fully manifesting? And I seem to have lost Mandy there, so she'll click back in there in a minute on the link, so she'll be back with us. So keep popping your questions in, folks. Kelly's saying there she loves Agnes. She works very strongly within the team. Encapsulated that, Phil. So, hello, Maureen. You're fine. Mandy will be back with us as soon as possible. She's just coming back in now. So, you're all right, Mand. Just keep popping in and out there. Is that better for you?
Yeah, post office Wi-Fi. I'll have to tell the neighbours to pay their bill.
No problem. We had I'll recap on that question then from Jane. She's just saying, can you remove any dark entities attached to a person? Would you explain any cases that you've come across, or what we've come across, or whatever? How would you say that you do that?
Well, I call it encapsulating. We won't go into details of what you call it, but I'm sure somebody will put in the comments of what you call it, especially when you say it live on air with loads of people watching. Yeah, I think Phil's just put it to the comment in question. It's a thing that I've been able to do with being a self-healer. I call it encapsulating. I'm able to take the spirit energy into me, but not as far as into the whole heart and soul of my body. I can trap it into my face, my head, and then I can, what I call, white wall it, and then I leave the property, leave word at the location, and I take them away to a place that I know that doesn't matter how negative they are, this place is a lot more darker than what they are.
And then when we've done that in the past, it seems to knock the negative energy down into a level or two, doesn't it? Where they've got a pecking order amongst themselves. They've got a pecking order amongst themselves in that certain location where I do know that you pass that negative energy on to. Who would you say is like the strongest energy there, that you leave these lower energies there? Who would you say is in charge of that little piece of pie, or where you do that and we get rid of this negative energy and leave it amongst the more negative energies? Who would you say was the strongest energy there? Because I think we've come across that person a few times, haven't we?
Yeah, he's a turncoat pirate, but he's a lot more. He's only short, but he's feisty.
Very boisterous.
So it doesn't matter if it could be 7 foot tall. What I take there, he's the man in charge. It's his land.
And when we've done a house clearance with the team, and I've got hold of the energy, basically communicating with it and talking to it, and you've took this energy and entity by surprise in certain locations, haven't you? And then you virtually inhale this spirit energy. If it's not playing bat and ball on a house clearance, or it's not listening to us, then we do have an element of surprise of how we work as a team. And it is amazing where you see another team member that was actually, have I just seen what's gone on there, and how did that happen? And the total atmosphere changes straight away, doesn't it? As if it's that release. The release has gone into you of that person, but the release in the room has just totally changed straight away from when you've done that as well.
It does. I cover up all my protection tattoos, as you know. I'll cover them all up, and I'll take myself to a darker place thought-wise, so that the energy that's playing havoc, when it sees my energy, it sees a darker energy, so it sees me as an alliance.
So we go in as light.
I know, yeah.
So you go in as dark, and I go in the light, and then all of a sudden we balance out, and then you just get hold of it, don't you? And then you encapsulate it, and then cap it off. And then sometimes even with that, we do know it's draining as well, man. And that's like the demonology side of things coming in. And when you release that as well, you totally feel drained, or do you feel sick sometimes?
Yeah, I've been sick before now. It's like a big whoosh.
I remember going to the house in Liverpool. I'm going to touch back on that, where Kelly's put up the little girl was playing with the hula hoop in the corner, and she was virtually fully manifesting virtually at the live when we was on that particular part. You could see the outskirts of the girl in that house, and that went back as well as another boisterous chap that came in, didn't he? And he seemed to not listen to us, did he? And then we just that's where you actually took him by surprise then, didn't you? And you took your patches off your angel wings because you had them covered up. And there was a massive element of surprise there, where I think we'd already sorted out what we was going to do prior to getting there, didn't you? You already had that inkling of what you needed to do.
Yeah, I always get myself ready for it. I'd like to say I take myself into a dark place. I think darker thoughts, and I become darker than what I am, because if I go in there as a light worker, I can't do what I need to do. I think we scared the team a bit that night, because my eyes apparently went black.
Very. So there you go. So our Phil's just saying that now as well. And again, we always have full respect, don't we, with all spirits that we come across. And so now when we're touching back on your teenage years and that, how did you feel that you moved on then into the next decade? How did you feel you went into the next decade, your 20s and 30s? How did that materialize for you in and around spirit?
I got used to it, but then it sort of went away again when I had my first children, and then it came back again. But I embraced it. I then believed, it's nothing to be frightened of. My mum explained to me that it goes back in our family in centuries. So I sort of embraced the fact that, spirit was choosing me to talk to. Because it is wonderful to have that communication with spirit.
It's an amazing gift as well, isn't it? And
yeah,
what we've had over the years, man, and we've come across, not every case is like this where it's been as heavy. These have been some of the heavier ones where we've had boisterous energies and have not been listening and not been compromising with us. And when we've had to do what you've had to do, that's where it stands out over the years when you look back, isn't it? I mean, we do have some lost souls that we come across, and we have to explain to them as well. So every case is totally different, isn't it? So we don't have to do that all the time. It's all about when the understanding of where that spirit and energy is up to, isn't it? And if it doesn't play ball, then we have to bring our team in and do what we need to do, especially with yourself as well. Jane's saying that she's been told that they can be moved on, and that's what we can move on as well with spirit and move them on in different ways, can't you?
Yeah, the doorway is always open for them to come back. But yeah, I'd never move anything on in a location or anywhere that we go to. If it's someone's private dwelling and they can't live with this entity or this spirit being in the house, and they ask us to move it on because of the children, etc., then we will move it on. But even though you're moving something on, there's a doorway. The doorway never closes.
Yeah, just reading the next question coming in there as well. When you touched on places that we've been to, and do you remember the Bolton Institute?
Yes, I do. That was a good place. I like that place.
Now, when I actually went there, I think there was a room there with a snooker table in, and we just asked a little question like, can you move the light shade above the snooker table? And then nothing had happened. And then maybe an hour later, we were still in the room and just seeing out the corner of the eye, and then the top shade above the snooker table started moving. So it was like, we'll play and we'll communicate with you, but in our own time. I felt there was more to go back there too, especially with the cellar. Do you remember the cellar or the lower room down, the lowest room down?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And to me, it's like I always feel there's more layers to come off that type of room to help with and balance and cleanse as well. So I'm always drawn back to that place as well. Where would you say your best place that you've come across and most interaction, where not with the paranormal side of it, but the communication side of it with spirit that you've mostly enjoyed? I mean, Penryn Old Door was amazing, and we've learned a lot from that. Where would you say that you've really enjoyed?
I think my favourite place has to be the theatre. I absolutely love the spirits in that theatre. I love them. Yeah, it's got to be one of my favourites is the theatre.
And do you remember the gentleman we captured in the
in
top
the cellar?
The gentleman in the top attic on the doorway where you could see his full.
Ah, yes, on the photograph, yeah.
On the photograph, that was an amazing night, and we've had that quite a few times in there as well. And there is, remember when we found?
I was just going to say, there's one area as well. It doesn't matter how many times we change the camera over, the camera will never work on that certain area, and we can change it for a new camera, it'll never work.
And that's the lock-off cameras as well, isn't it?
Yeah, they'll never work. New ones don't work.
Do you remember when we went into the room next to the projector room and we found all the items from Queen Victoria? From the
newspapers and everything,
we found the newspapers, didn't we, from the 1900s, and we found the curling tongues, which were just like hot irons, weren't they?
Yeah.
We seemed to pick a spirit up there, didn't we, from just a suitcase, a travelling lady as well, wasn't she?
We did, yeah. Wasn't she from France?
Yes, she was
her name Maria?
She was a performer, wasn't she, of going around the circuits in them times, in them days as well. And she was a lovely lady, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, she was. She was a lovely lady.
They're the type of things you can't buy when you go, oh my God, I've just met an amazing person in spirit. And when they tell you their life story after you've been communicating with them for a while, it's just amazing. Right. tell me a little bit more about how you got started in the paranormal.
I used to do it off and on, just of my own, just as a hobby. And then I got asked to help out with another team. Must be about 7-8 years ago now. At a location in the Wirral. I think that's where we met.
Yes.
I think we worked together for about 2 years with that team, didn't we?
Yeah, it was in a library, wasn't it? We met.
No. It wasn't it down the creek. Wasn't it down the tunnel?
Yeah, I think I remember rightly that we went about setting up the paranormal team when we met in the library, and we said, you're going into this to sort out a new team, didn't you? If I remember rightly. That's right.
Yeah, because we did a few places, didn't we? We did that the pub where we had to spend 3 hours, was it, down the cellar, because they had a race night upstairs.
Yes, and is that where we came across the pirate?
Yes, it was. He was the first time I think it was in the Human Pendulum, when everyone just sort of disappeared apart from you, and you were just covered in blood. But everyone in the room disappeared. That was our first instance, yeah.
But that was right on the coast of the Wirral as well, wasn't it? And I think a lot of people went out for fresh air that night.
Yeah, they did. I think the library that you were talking about just then, I think that was the last place that we ever did with that team, and then that was when I made the decision to follow my own path.
Jane saying the person helping her is a chaotic witch who says that he can remove it himself and can deal with it. If you need any help, just inbox Mandy as well, Jane, or myself, and we can work from a distance. Mandy will give us. I got a phone call, I think, from Mandy. I think it was a week last Sunday. We won't go into specifics. We won't go into specifics with names. Do you want to tell the folks of how we dealt with things, and you dealt with things on that phone call? Because we do get some distressed people, don't we, sometimes?
Yeah, I had a lovely lady phone me last Sunday. She was very, very distressed, very upset, very anxious. I said that we'd help her, we'd sort her out. I needed to speak to you first, obviously. Time went by because I was away on a Sunday night. So Monday, I set up a chat group, FaceTimed. We spoke to her. She was really upset, wasn't she? She was very, very. She was very upset. She was distraught with whatever was in the location, and we cleaned it. Well, we didn't clean it for her. We cleared it for her. We didn't send it away, but we made the energy come down a lot lower and nicer than what it was in there for her. And she was very made up. She was absolutely crying, wasn't she?
Yeah, we threw a balance at it because we had to bombard it with light, didn't we? In a way where it was basically portraying on personal situations that's gone on for that person for the last 12 months. And that we actually put a picture up of that, didn't we, on your page? And I shared that type of energy that it looked like. And every time I was trying to link into it, all I could see was its heels, and then it scooting off. So every time it was like, I can feel the energy of a white light trying to link in. It was scooting off into another room within that building that we were trying to help with. And it's amazing and a lovely feeling when that person feels release of the energy, that it's not getting as strong, not draining them as well, because it's hard to do, especially when we've been through this period of the last 14, 15 months. I've felt over the last few weeks that these energies are trying to get their last throw of the dice of this situation and bombarding a lot of people that are vulnerable or are open.
Yeah, I found that as well, yeah.
That's what I found, and I always know then that there's going to be more coming in, right, on top of each other as well. Do you know what I mean? So again, just to get a thank you off helping people, it's just an amazing feeling.
It was an amazing feeling because she really was distraught when we first spoke to her and first started helping her, and it was an amazing feeling. And the fact that I was able to get a picture from a name, because we don't give the names to negativity. We know that you never name the negativity. But luckily, I gave her a name that she couldn't take. And I thought, no, I can't. I've got to work with this name. This name means something. And just by changing 2 letters around, it was the actual name of the negative entity, which is what I believe is a Portuguese idol. But obviously, I'm not going to give the name.
But what we actually did, your team would have turned that the other way around. So at the time, we was all on the phone and dealing with it, wasn't it? So again, your team would have held back a little bit, so we wouldn't say that. We wouldn't build on the energy at the time, because that's what the team do, isn't it? Spiritually, they give us things in the right way as well, don't they? At the right time.
Yeah, they do. I meant to say it's not a Portuguese idol; it's a Portuguese death spirit, which is what it is. And obviously she'd been grieving, hadn't she? She explained she was grieving. So it was stuck in the energy from her grief.
And it was feeding off that, wasn't it? And trying to make her feel lower down as well. And then obviously, everything's been settled there as well. We've done loads, and you've done loads for charity, and you've done, we've done a lot from Anubis when it started off as well. And tell us a bit more about the name if people don't know about Anubis.
Anubis is the Egyptian god of the dead. So Anubis would have been the embalmer and mummifier in Egyptian, and he's the god of the dead. And it's called, our logo is a Perte Mentis, which is Latin for open mind, because we believe that when you come into a paranormal investigation, you should have an open mind. You should be skeptic. Don't, because if you come in a believer, you expect too much to happen. If you come in as a skeptic, then that little thing that does happen makes it all worthwhile.
Kelly's saying, seeing Mandy encapsulate it, it's amazing. It's hard to describe as well, but it's totally, Phil said, like the room lightens up and stuff like that as well. So it is like calling your archangel in. It is like working with the team that they can't see at the moment in time as well. So it does change very quick. And we do seem to have that bat and ball as well, man, don't we? Where it's like I always feel when we walk into a room that if there's a spirit energy that's not playing the correct way, it soon learns how to adjust and come around to our way of thinking, because I think we put the compromises out there to it and then adjust to which way it's coming back at us or back at the team as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So
we seem to have this massive connection as well. The spiritual connection that we seem to have is huge, especially when we are in somewhere and then we're separated even in 2 different rooms. We can give and take each other.
Yeah, and many a time you've linked in with how can I say, protecting the team, protecting the public. And I think I was talking the other week where I said there's only ever one time where I've called early for a break, and you was like, oh my God, Gary's called early for a break on a paranormal investigation. And that's where somebody was getting a personal message on the board where they wanted more, but we had to think of the environment. We had to think of the team that night, and you had to think of the paying public as well. So we actually said to that person at the end of the night, come back and see us and we'll give you some more information about your loved one as well. So there's always a time and a place, and then trying to explain that certain situations can come up at any time on an investigation, can't they? As you say, with an open mind, when somebody's getting an amazing message, when someone's getting an amazing message off their loved one, it's just like, it's mind-blowing as well, isn't it? For them to see them receiving is amazing.
Yeah, to see that they've followed them along as well, and they've probably waited so long for the opportunity to give them this message as well.
Most definitely. Where would you say, do you remember that time we went up to 30 East Drive and we all had punches and blowouts?
Oh, yes.
Every car that went up there.
Was that the first time we ever went there?
I think it was playing games, wasn't it, about a week before we went up?
Yeah, and then our tyre blew out on the way down, and in the morning yours was flat.
And somebody else on the drive I had the puncture on the way there before I got home from work. I had the puncture. You had the
we blew out.
And the person that stayed overnight on the drive, they woke up the next morning and their tyre was flat.
Tyre, yeah.
So Janice says hello.
Hi, Janice. Hi to everyone. I can't really see most of the comments, so hi to everyone.
No problems. I am putting them on. Which house was that, Phil? I mean, sometimes when we get a portal, we can reduce the size of a portal by pushing the negative portal out so the main positives remains. But where you've got a portal and you move it, the positive and the negative will stay the same distance apart. So you've got to be very careful in and around anything to do with portals, haven't we, man? Where would you say the strongest portal that you've come across?
Strongest.
I mean, because you can get a positive portal that will drain you. If you're walking through a positive portal, can drain your energy because it goes, oh, I'll have all that positivity you bring in as well.
Do you know, the most draining place I'd say would have been Gladstone Theatre, because we were the first people to ever go in there. And people that night were dropping like flies with the energy. People were being sick. People were just passing out with the energy. Like, spirits came from all over the area to like, yes, we're open.
Wasn't there a boxer that came out the side alleyway?
Yeah.
And he was a tough nut to crack, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And that was a draining.
That was a really good location. It was obviously spoilt a little bit, but it was a fantastic location, which we need to go back to, that one.
And the Gladstone Theatre is in Port Sunlight Village, isn't it? And TV have wanted that for maybe 20 years, haven't they? And
they have.
We was the first in there that night. I can safely say outside the building, not from within the building. I think I spent an hour outside after just communicating, balancing and cleansing and settling the place down, because it was like, as soon as we opened up there at Gladstone Theatre, it was, I'd say there must have been 400 spirits outside waiting for me when we left the building on the investigation, never mind inside the building.
Yeah, it was a bit like Glastonbury Festival.
It was like, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were just coming from everywhere. People were being sick, people were passing out because we couldn't cope with the massive influx, because it had never been done in that area before. So there were spirits coming from everywhere.
And again, when you walk around Port Sunlight Village, I actually see certain areas like bombed out from the war and stuff like that and being built back up. And it was just like a time zone that it gone through so many. It brought like 200 years worth of time zone out, didn't it? It just brought all the spirits forward, didn't it, that night? And it was the kitchen sink, wasn't it? It was so. It was from the first minute to the last minute after 6 hours. It was non-stop from the first minute. And I think we need to return there and have a team invest there.
Yeah, definitely. That was the first time that Eddie'd ever actually felt a spirit walk straight through him. It came running up the hallway and it ran straight through him.
And it was an amazing location, that I can honestly safely say, even outside in the stables and stuff, the old outhouses and the buildings, and you got the cobbled yards as well, haven't you, there in the back of Port Sunlight as well?
Yeah, and do you remember that phone that got locked? One of the team's phone got locked in one of the old stables, and they were trying to get the door open. And for the first 10 minutes of it being in there, you could hear the door shut and you could hear somebody whistling and somebody walking around on the cobbles inside the stable.
Wasn't there a massive vacuum as well when the door actually opened? Wasn't there like a gush or like a release? There was a release of volume inside that room. Right, let's see. Claire said she was lucky enough to go the theatre as well. I think was that the Earthen Theatre?
That was the Irving, yeah. We did the Gladstone, was our second to last investigation with the other team, because I prepped for the Gladstone Theatre for months. Absolutely met with the committee and everything to get that place, if you remember. And they gave in.
They certainly did, and you was very persistent on that as well. Claire saying in the Gladstone Theatre, she members going up into the rafters. That's where you captured the gentleman in the doorway, which we'll put onto the end of this. I'll put the picture up onto the end of this, the clip and all that. So keep asking questions, folks. There's no problem there. She used the Tibetan bowl, and it's the little music suggested it worked well. And again, we've had a lot where the room's actually changed, hasn't it? Again, where other people's suggestions as well come in very handy on the investigations.
Yeah. So that's what we like, don't we? We like the guests to step in and say, "Can we do this?"
Yeah, and then when we step back as well, and we was also the first into that place. What was the mill? What was the mill? Wasn't Weir Mill, was it? It was
Lee Spinners.
Lee Spinners Mill, and we helped towards a charity there as well, didn't we? We done a charity event there as well.
Yeah, we did the world's largest ghost hunt. I think we did the second or the third one in there and raised nearly £1,000 for them that night.
And if anyone's not been there, please go to Lee Spinners Mill. It's worth a visit round as a museum as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah, definitely.
And I know you've put a lot of time, effort, and energy in with Ed and the team and that as well. We actually had somebody took a brand new rent pod off us that night, didn't they? Of yours.
Yeah, they did. Thank you very much for taking the brand new rent pod.
And when things like that happen and you're actually raising money and then somebody takes a piece of equipment, that is, it just puts that sickness into your stomach, doesn't it? It puts that gut feeling. Yeah. It's horrible, you know. So I'll never forget that, because it's just like, you know, there's just no need for that type of scenario to happen again. So again, we show respect. We also expect it back.
Yeah, definitely.
Mini lockdown. Didn't we do the 48 hours there as well?
Yeah, we did do 48 hours. We had 2 lots of team and guests come in, but we did the 48 hours there, didn't we?
So we had 2 different sets of guests, didn't we? Say one Friday night, one Saturday night.
And it was me, you, and Eddie stayed, wasn't it? Did Thomas? Yeah, Thomas stayed as well, didn't he? For 48 hours.
Yeah.
I think that was it.
We had a lot going on there as well, didn't we? Interacting as well.
Yeah, we did, didn't we, Mr. Fields? Mr. Black Shadow on the bed, Mr. Fields.
Hang on, your husband was going to attack me at one point, if I remember, and pick me up by the throat by the hatchet man.
Mister, why don't you go and lie on the bed, Mandy, upstairs? Yeah, of course I will, Gary.
Tell us more about that, please.
I was in the living room. I can't even remember what I was doing in the living room now, but Gary calls me in and says, do me a favour, Mandy, go upstairs and lie down on the parents' bed for me. I was like, what do you want me to stop? I'm doing something. Oh, God, just humour me. Just go upstairs and lie down on the parents' bed. And I'm like huffing up the stairs like a scolded child. Go and lie on the bed. And I hear like a tapping noise, like fingernails tapping on. And I thought it was the camera on the bedside table next to me. So I left it for a few minutes and I turned to look at the camera because I was going to unplug it because it was really annoying me. And there's no camera there. And this tap of fingernails carried on. Then all of a sudden a black shadow came from the wall and threw itself straight into the big mirror facing, straight in. I jumped up off the bed, got to the top of the stairs and heard stop. Now I thought it was Eddie telling me to stop at the top of the stairs in case I fall, running. But then a few minutes later, Eddie come round and said, what are you standing at the top of the stairs for? I said, because you just told me to stop. He said, nobody said a word. I said, someone told me to stop at the top of the stairs.
Also, as well, I can safely say that's the first time you've ever ran on an investigation.
Yeah, but you'd failed to tell me that you'd seen a black shadow lie down on the bed before you sent me up there.
it's just part of the experiment. And don't forget, I think we had about 10, 15 lock-off cameras on that night as well, didn't we? We had that place rigged up, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
And that, if I remember rightly, basically come through the wall, basically down below and right past the window as well, as you said, heading towards the mirror.
Went straight into the mirror.
So again, we get the insight, we get the inkling that something's about to happen. Your team don't tell us, and then obviously we've got to experience it as well, haven't we? So again, it's like an amazing interaction as well. And certainly Eddie's come on leaps and bounds, hasn't he, the last few months or whatever
massively.
I can say.
The other night was just amazing, the information that he came out with at the towers, and it was information that was given to me, Kelly, and Linda by a gentleman.
Alison Towers.
Alison Towers, yeah. And soon as we met up with you, I went live straight away. So you can see on that live the whole time, I'd never told Eddie this story about the young girl, and he came out with everything. The age, the pregnancy, he came out with everything.
And also as well, I think on that night at Allerton Towers, it was just an open general park, isn't it? That we went to for a bit of fresh air. We done a mini investigation, you know, and
yeah.
You actually seen a lady walk. The gentleman told you about the lady, and you actually seen the lady walking across the top of the park area.
Split second, seen that.
And you said you was going to go back and check on the film. Have you had time to do that yet?
I haven't had time, but I will promise you I'll do that tomorrow. But I'm thinking my phone was facing down the road, and she was over in the trees. I'm hoping my phone was facing that way, but I'm thinking it was facing down the path. But split second, she was there.
And can you tell the folks as well, where obviously I go into places where we don't tell each other any information or nothing. We go in blind as much possible as we can. And can you tell the folks there a little bit more of the history of the place of Allerton Towers?
Allerton Towers was owned by a famous slave trader in Liverpool. The towers was designed by the gentleman that designed St. George's in Liverpool. Now, as you know, St. George's had cells underneath St. George's Hall. There's hearsay that there were cells underneath the Allerton Towers, but it's not been documented. But I did find something somewhere that it did have cells underneath there. I've had to go through so much. This is why I didn't do a lot of mediumship when I was there, because I'd researched the place. We took you there completely blind, no postcode, no nothing, just follow the car. And we're also taking you to another place that I know is linked to it, that you know nothing of as well. But it's linked between the two gentlemen, which is again undocumented unless you know what you're looking for.
Right, okay. And again, that's part of the inquisitiveness of the enjoyment we get out of tying things together, that Spirit gives us information as well. Claire's saying there, obviously, about being drained on development. That gentleman she's talking about, the soldier, has actually been seen on a photograph I took outside the garden the other week. So we do have a gentleman in and around this room that there's a soldier that is after some more communication as well. So I will get to work with him in a few weeks' time. Hopefully, this Wednesday night I'm doing a development class, so I hopefully sort that out as well. Gladstone Theatre was in Port Sunlight Village. Just trying to think what Janice is saying. Janice has had some good experiences with us as well. I think the Bolton Institution around the table as well. Didn't she throw us some gold or coins at us, even though they were like dice or didn't we have
Scrabble pieces? Yes, threw them all over the room. Yeah.
As an experiment, we put some Scrabble pieces on the table.
Yeah, she threw them everywhere.
Janice was in trance. I put Janice in trance that night, and she actually took it upon herself towards the end. And didn't she throw all the books off the shelf as well at one point?
No, I think that was Elaine.
Elaine, that was it. Yeah, that's right as well. So Janice has interacted quite often and opens up very well on the investigations as well. Warwick Castle. Oh, now what a few times we've had there, and we are due back there, aren't we?
No, we were due back in
October.
Sometime. No, we're due for the weekend away in September. We were due back during lockdown, but Warwick Castle cancelled it.
Okay, but tell us a little bit about Warwick Castle.
There's a fantastic little place, Warwick Castle. Loved it in there. The interaction in there was really good as well. We had a curtain moving in the witch's circle, kept lifting up with no doors open, no nothing, but it just kept lifting up, like somebody was picking it up to look underneath it. And
I know we was like one of the last groups to investigate Warwick Castle, where you could go in the main chamber, the main room, because obviously other people have been taking trinkets or taking stuff out that precious room and all that. I always remember quite a tall chap and a beheading as well, and somebody coming in on the knees spiritually that they wanted forgiveness or they didn't. There was a story around there, but I could virtually see. Remember taking the photograph from above, because I went above on the balcony, didn't I? While the group was getting on. The group was getting on with what they were doing, and I just thought, I've got to take a photograph. And you could actually see a pocket of energy virtually come through the main door, and it was like towards the group, but it was just hovering around the group as they were circling around. And it's amazing when you actually see something and going, I can see it spiritually, and then you capture something on a film, and it's just like, but you know it's trying to affect one of the team members. So I needed to see it from a different scope to see what he was after. But we've had some amazing energies at Warwick Castle.
Yeah, it's been really good at Warwick Castle. Clanfillan Workhouse was really good as well. Very, very cold, but really, really good.
That was absolutely, it was a perishing night, wasn't it? It was just before the refurb, if I remember.
Yeah, it was very, very cold.
And again, I left some of my equipment there as well. I think I left an SP7 there, and I left quite a few objects there as well. But that was a very interesting place as well. But even driving down there, it felt like not sorrow, but you could feel the anguish of spirits that we were coming across. To survive a day was a big day to survive. Every day was hardship to survive, wasn't it, in their time as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Just trying to think as well. What have you got planned for the next 12 months then, now things are starting to lighten up? Anything planned? And where have you got investigations to get out and about soon?
Only actually got Clonmill planned for September, which is fully sold out because that was sold out from last year, so that's not really an event that's going out there. I haven't really got anywhere booked because until I know for certain that that's it, now we can do it, we can go out there, we can do bookings, then I'm not really going to do it because it's the case of cancelling it and having to chase money up and having to give refunds and that out again. So,
and again, you're waiting to see what comes around August, September time, see if they move the goalposts again.
Yeah, once again.
Kelly's saying Walton Hall there. Walton Hall, and the big massive table where, excuse me, I think Elaine was in trance, wasn't she? Oh, what, Walton Hall, yeah. Well, we've had two experiences, haven't we? Walton Hall, that was the big round table that actually lifted up virtually on two legs, wasn't it? That was like an octagon table, and that was about 8 foot, and that actually lifted up. I think it ran towards Thomas, didn't it? And myself and Thomas trying to wedge us in.
Yeah, that was in Warrington one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the Walton Hall. Do you remember the time in Walton Hall in Speke, Liverpool, where Elaine was in trance and she tried to flip the table over with one hand?
Flipped the table, yeah.
And that was about that was like a head table, wasn't it? It was about 20 people could fit around that table, couldn't it? And she just flipped it with one hand. It all went, whoa. Yeah. Massive, interesting night. That very amazing energies come through that night as well. So tell us a little bit more about charities and tell us a little bit more about what else you do as well, man, and give yourself a plug on any support you need as well. Just
I want to give a massive plug at the moment to a charity called Man Minds. It was initially set up as a mental health Facebook group for men, Man Minds. It's now a mental health chat group. It's a private one, so you've got to be invited to join it. So nobody can see anything that you put in there, but it's for anybody now. I'm also their ambassador for the domestic violence section of it. The British Telecom are selling the iconic red phone boxes for £1, but you can't just buy a phone box for £1. You've got to jump through hoops to get these phone boxes, but we're trying to petition for British Telecom to put them on the motorway bridges on the M53 for a start. Hopefully we can get this done all over the country. But as you know yourself, we've seen somebody go to jump off a bridge on the way back from Bolton a few years ago.
Bolton Abbey, that wasn't it? And I actually remember on that night, because when we finished the investigation and the people in the car, I said, the night's not over yet. We're not home safe yet.
No.
And I specifically said that to the team that was in the car. When we went under the bridge, a gentleman was going to jump off. By the time I'd phoned you hands free, because you were about 3 or 4 miles behind me, the police had this gentleman, didn't they? And they
did. He went to jump and they caught him. Yeah, they did catch him.
And I can actually, that was the night I actually swerved from one lane to the other that night, and it was a good job it was an empty motorway. But it's just amazing. It's just it's just unfortunate people go through this, but setting these red boxes up and all that is so they can make phone calls and do what they were going to do prior.
Yeah, it's they'll have three phone numbers in it, which will be for crisis, Samaritans, and I think the other one's for Mind. Because even though on the bridges it has the telephone number saying please ring this number, sometimes there's not a phone box for 1.5 miles, so they might then they're not going to take the mobile phone with them, but they might see this number and think, I'll give it one last go. But then there's no phone boxes around. Phil from My Mind, he went to one of the motorway bridges and he ended up walking 1.5 miles before he found a phone box.
Right. Okay. And again, as you know, if we can change one or help one person's life, and that's what it's all about as well, isn't it? So, we've helped so much over the years as well. Do you remember that this one always gets me? And even before I went to this house clearance, was I virtually knew what was going on, that this lady was getting towards the end of her days and her husband was there waiting to collect her, but we couldn't say that. And we got there and it was like she was a hoarder, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was.
We helped with a couple of portals, but I think she'd phoned every paranormal team in the Northwest for help. And then as soon as we walked out, I was like, her husband's just waiting to collect it in a few weeks, a few months. But we couldn't say that or give that. But she kept getting the strength of this energy coming in. But we couldn't realistically tell her that it was a husband waiting for her to go and play classes. And that's when it's really, really hard as a professional person and team to, we can only lighten over the situation and then hopefully balance and cleanse and settle it down a little bit where we can make the atmosphere a bit lighter for her. But she was losing she was going into a little bit of Alzheimer's as well, wasn't she? She was just starting into that, and she was on her own. But I think both of us, when we actually got out into the car that night, it was like as if we could both cry with like, not the frustration within ourselves. It's just like we wanted to give her that release, but we weren't allowed to tell her as well. So
we couldn't tell her.
You can't tell somebody that as well, and it's like she's being prepared by spirits to be collected, and we're like, oh my God, it's just so hard. But she can feel the strength of them energies around that's coming in, and she can feel the build up as well, because that's what was happening. But I can't remember the lady's name, but I just like wished her all the loads of love and white light, and I think we both did, didn't we? And it was just sometimes
we did.
sometimes it's like, you know, that could be 4 or 5 or 6 weeks before she might pass over, or I don't think we actually heard from her. I think we had one more phone call, didn't we, after that?
I think I had 1 or 2 more phone calls, and then they stopped, so that we sort of knew then.
Yeah, and that I think that was definitely. I think we was there more for the soothing side of it, for the spirits, that we could communicate what the spirits were there for, and to try and help her nudge her on through the next 4, 5, 6, or 8 weeks to get where she needed to be, is how I felt. So
yeah.
Tell us a little bit. I know we're coming up to the hour and all that. And I said we'd run over, which is no problem. Crystals, healing. What else do you do as well, man?
I'm not a Reiki healer, but I'm a natural healer. So I've got the properties of a Reiki healer, but I've not been trained as a Reiki healer. I use my natural own healing powers to heal people without being a Reiki healer.
And again, we have adapted different skills over the years as well, haven't we? You know, like I say like a bit of wizardry, but I just feel I've learned basically to hold back a certain energy if it's not welcome in the room. You know, we can hold it back or whatever, and we both see remotely as well, and we sense remotely as well from a distance as well, don't we? And that itself is like it's like the seeing the cine film, and your team's telling you what's going on, but you've still got to have the conversation, talking out as a medium to the person you're helping on the phone from a distance or via messenger or on the video link or whatever. And it's hard to paragraph something sometimes, of saying, put that in the right category, you've got to say it this way, you've got to say it that way. So there is a professionalism that comes with it. Have you found that you've been in a state of mind where it's been so frustrating for yourself because you want to give a certain information but you can't give it? Where would you say that's been the most frustrating thing that you've had to bite your tongue on with anything?
Giving messages when you see stuff in the cards and you know you can't give it, but you can see it there as clear as day. You can see it, but you just know professionally you can't give what that's saying, and you just hope that they get it themselves.
And I think, I mean, within the cards as well, it's I always feel that you're going to get the adjustment coloured cards, either brown coloured cards coming out for a period of where their energy's changing, and then I always like to do readings where it steps up towards the end of the 12 months period to give them happier vibes. But when you get that feeling and you can see the card, and your team tells you the card's coming out before it comes out, and it comes out, and you're like, it does get mind blowing as well. Do you remember there's some tunnels over the road from you, isn't there, which we weren't allowed in?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. Yeah.
And we didn't go in there, did we?
No, never been in there ever. Eddie's never been in there either.
Any more history around now Bidston Hill and the observatory? Very interesting area.
Very interesting. Well, as you know, I live facing Bidston Hill. That is as active as clockwork over there. You could do investigations over there every night, and you would not be disappointed.
And even going into the car park, walking up, you feel the atmosphere change, don't you? Just walking up to that actual windmill that's on the top as well by the observatory. Mandy's, there's a nice compliment coming for Adam. Mandy's lovely, down to earth person. Shops in B&M like the rest of us. Adam,
cheers,
most
Adam.
haunted.
I bumped into him in B&M, and he had his haunted scouts face mask on. I was like,
I know you. So,
funny.
Good evening, folks. Any more questions? Is there anything else that you'd like to put over there to the people? Where can they find you, and where can you find Anubis and anywhere else that you'd like to be linked with?
Well, we've got the world's largest ghost hunt coming up this year. I can't really put too much out about that at the moment. We are looking for more English teams to jump on board with that. There's not enough English teams again. It's totally American dominated, so I need the English teams to get on board with this.
How many teams are you looking for?
As many as possible.
And
I think last year, well, the most they've ever had, I think, is 3
English teams.
Yeah.
And I think we went on board with that the second year, wasn't it? Upwards.
Yeah, just missed the first year and got on board just after they'd done the first year, ready for the second year.
And then when people take part with the investigation, they just have to be in a location and send like a 10-minute video in of what they've captured in and around that night, if I remember. Or has that changed?
It's got to be a location that's self-funded. So every penny that you get from the tickets has to go to the location. You can't make anything from the ticket sales, and try and raise some money on the night if you can, whether it be raffles or scratchy things, spot the ball things, but everything you earn's got to go to the location.
Where would you say you're looking forward to going then? Where's the goals for the next 5 years, 2 years, 3 years? Where would you say what's on your list?
To get more and more teams into the world's largest host country, because like I say, it's completely American dominated, which is good, but it's not good for me because all my Zoom calls are between midnight and 3 o'clock in the morning. I need to be speaking to English teams.
And do you remember all them years ago where we went up to Edinburgh? Can you remember that?
Yeah.
And do you remember that the street? Janet might know the street where we actually stayed in the hostel.
The gutter thing.
And me and Eddie, I think both me and Eddie woke up the next morning with booming headaches. And I was like, all night I was saying, something's not right, something's not right, something's not right. And then as soon as we woke up in the morning, we both went, this is the old police station and this is the old courtrooms, isn't it? I think we both said it at the same time as like, this, and we must have just got bombarded and drained at night because
we actually slept in the gutter, wasn't it called? Gutter row or
gutter, it was something like that.
Cow gutter, yeah. We slept in the gutter
lane, isn't it? If I remember rightly, something like that.
What was it, Ed? Cow's Gate, Eddie said.
Something like that. But that was an amazing street to walk down, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was where all the bloods, and when they used to throw the buckets out the windows of when they went to the toilet, and it would all run down the hill to that gutter alley, and that's where we slept, in the gutter.
And that's where they got the phrase and the saying about rubbish faced, wasn't it? That so when people are drunk, that's where the phrase come out, like watch out below, basically, as well. But Edinburgh was quite interesting all them years ago as well, wasn't it? That was And again, one place I'd like to go back to, and it got called off for some reason, was Lancaster Castle.
Yeah, I can't remember why that got called off, but I'd love to do Lancaster Castle. Obviously, there's a lot of stipulations that we can't do in there, but I do want to do Lancaster Castle.
But I'm drawn to that with Pendle Hill. Wasn't there a lot of connections with Pendle Hill? Yeah,
it's where the trial was.
Right, okay, that's what it'll be. You see, I didn't know that, so you shouldn't have told me that. So again, I'd look forward to doing that as well. I've had some interesting. Are you all right for time?
Yeah.
Shrewsbury Prison, we've had some interesting times there.
We have had some good times there, haven't we?
Do you remember when we pulled up and they went, your team's bigger than the TV crew that was here last week?
Oh, it was funny.
And what happened as well on that night was one of the security guards from Dana Prison, Shrewsbury Prison, took my walkie-talkie, and I went home with his walkie-talkie. We put him down having a cup of tea, and we'd walked off with the wrong...
Each of us walkie-talkies.
We'd walked off with each of the walkie-talkies that night. And then I went back about 6 months later, and I gave him his walkie-talkie back, but I didn't get mine back. But that's the way it goes, isn't it? So we're always honest in that. But it was amazing... amazing place to go in.
Yeah, it was. It was. You could do that over and over and over again, though, because there's so much of it to do.
Right. Top 5 places would you say to investigate? Where's your top 5?
Top 5. Mary's King's Close, the Bolton Institute, Gladstone Theatre, my little theatre that I love so much, and so many. Alton Towers again.
Do you remember when we was in Mary's King's Close and when they said, don't touch the wallpaper, it's arsenic?
Yeah.
Who fell on the wallpaper? who was ill for 2 weeks later? It's very dusty there, though. I had a very sore throat there after that, didn't I? Because obviously,
very dry.
In its time, it was a very dry night as well. But definitely going to go back to some of them places. Anywhere abroad?
Ooh, Alcatraz.
Yeah, it's on the bucket list.
Nowhere that I want to investigate, but I'd love to visit. I want to visit Auschwitz for personal, and I want to visit Chernobyl, not to investigate, but just to visit.
Yeah, I definitely think with Auschwitz, and I do know my Reiki master's been there and obviously tried to help souls there and stuff like that. And sometimes we can hear spiritually, like around the globe, we can get drawn to certain places where I think I touched on some murder cases from Australia and a few in America, and how psychics were help police investigations a few weeks back. And then all you could hear was a certain individual asking for help, a spirit asking for help, and then it ties in a few weeks later or a few weeks before, and then that spirit energy comes forward as well. Have you ever had anything like that as well, that you've had to get to the bottom of, that's been really, I wouldn't say pestering, it's like tapping you on the shoulder and really just after your information, or after your communication as well? Have you had anything like that that's been took ages to get to, or ages to get to the bottom of?
Yeah, I get names, or I get places, and I think, why have I just got that? A bit like with the Allerton Towers and the other location, I was given something which connected to Allerton Towers, and I knew it did, because every time I said Allerton Towers, I kept hearing the other. In the end, Eddie had to research for me, because it was really, really, really annoying me, because I knew it was connected, and he found the connection for me between the two.
And I went to, you get over to Liverpool a lot, man, or on a walk around, you find these areas like where you mentioned on the slave trades, where if I come out of James Street, I instantly get drawn to the waterfront, and obviously slave trade in them days, I can hear the screaming, and I can hear certain situations and scenarios going back onto certain time periods as well. And then it's like sometimes you've got to snap out of it as well. Is there a period where you get to, is there a period that you get drawn to, like the 1900s or the 1910s or 1800s? Is there a period that seems to really attract you more?
1940s, World War II.
Okay.
Really attracts me. But when you were saying about that, I went to watch my son perform in a show in a warehouse over in Liverpool. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know it was an old warehouse. The name of the place was Kitchen Street. That was the name of the venue. Knew nothing about it. But I could see faces, I could hear voices, I could hear screaming, I could hear shouting. Once again, went home, researched it, and it was used by the slave traders. It was a sugar warehouse. Yeah.
The sugar beet, and we can actually see when we was over in New Brighton or done that Pirates pub and all that on the waterfront, we can actually see that's virtually right opposite us then, isn't it, on that peninsula, that area that you're talking about, and then warehouses. I'm always feeling when I go through Liverpool, I always keep hearing like an old pub getting knocked down, and then they find a tunnel going under, and then they find bodies in this tunnel linking, where they would have got rid of them, gangsters in the days. I always get drawn to that story will come at light soon, and people will find this blocked off tunnel and in redevelopment. There's some type of, that's what I always get drawn to when I'm down by the dock road and stuff like that as well. Again, we're going to recap for Wayne. Says, what has been the scariest experience, Mandy?
Meeting Gary.
I think we've touched on Mandy's, which I'll let Mandy give the recap on that.
Mine was 30 East Drive, yeah. The shadow that ran into the mirror, that came from the depths of nowhere, flew past me and into the mirror. That was it. I was gone.
I would safely say when I went to an asylum and I had 3 or 4 people in trance, and visually in trance, these people were going for the windows, so I had to break the session. But that was a learning part of, not as much as scary, that was a learning part of the professionalism with, you need to break the session now. It needs to stop there because there was open windows at the time. So again, you've got to keep people safe. But as an energy could throw across the room, these 4 people were like 50 foot apart, you know, so they still had the link and the connection of what was going on in the period in that room at that time, from like so the 1950s or 1940s and that period. But in the asylum, it was very, very eerie night to go, right, we need to break it there. We need to go and have a break and recess what's actually just gone on and recap of that could have totally gone the different way to what somebody's not expecting as well. So in a good way, we never stop learning, and sometimes it can take us to the edge of the boundaries that we understand what's going on as well. So sometimes we can be pushed and pushed and pushed. Right, I'm going to see how we get on there now. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I was just going to say, was that your favourite asylum where you like to go blackberry picking?
Yes. But when we went to a certain asylum, Mandy, I did say that I cannot be entering certain places and just having a little look around outside. And I went blackberry picking.
Yeah, you did, didn't you? Yeah.
With your daughter. Did you get arrested? Did you get arrested that night, or did you get kicked off the property? I can't remember.
Yeah, I went too far in for the blackberries. I thought I could see a blackberry bush further in.
That's right. I remember. So yeah. Just a good job. I was a good boy. Right. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being patient there, Eddie. Do you want to give a shout out to any other members of the team as well, Mand?
To all the team. The team Anubis is absolutely amazing. I couldn't ask for a better team. We all gel together. We're all family. We're all so like-minded. It's just the most amazing team. I couldn't ask for a better team, and we've been going strong now together for 5 years.
Yeah, Jennifer's saying she can hear crystals and marbles rolling around, but that might be the headphones and the clicking and we get a bit of interference then, didn't we?
Yeah, it could be.
All right, okay. Right, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your time. Lovely to catch up.
See you Wednesday, Wayne, as well. Yeah, Wayne's on the radio show with me on Wednesday.
Which radio show is that?
Access Northwest Paranormal Radio Show, Wednesday, 12 till 3.
Okay, have fun and stay safe out there, folks. Thanks for joining us. Lovely for being part of the evening, and I can't wait to get back out there and experience some of the things that do what we enjoy doing.
Definitely can't wait to be back at it.
All right, so if you stay in the chat room behind the scenes, I'll just finish off the broadcast. And thanks for joining us, and stay safe out there, folks.